Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. My name is Colin,
I'm Josh.
And I'm Ray.
and we are back. We are back from Christmas, from all the holidays that happened. Happy holidays from the podcast to you guys. It's been uh, a long week. It's the last podcast of the. It's the last podcast of
last
the
of
year.
2022.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you guys have any highlights of any big Star Wars events? I think I might know Ray's.
I mean,
But-
it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And Andor
yeah.
for sure, being
Okay.
such a standout show in comparison to what we thought it was going to be. It was the biggest underdog I've ever had in Star Wars so far, so I'm very happy with that.
Good. Ray?
I mean, celebration.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
no brainer.
That was also your first time going to, which
Mhm.
next year, Josh and I will be going to Star Wars Celebration 2023 in London. Should be very, very interesting because it's overseas. I never traveled overseas before, but Josh is from overseas, and apparently he has said that he will show me the streets of London. I don't know what that means. Well, yeah, so cool. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. But I think for me it was probably Celebration, just because it's such a cool experience. And Josh, after you go, you'll fully understand of why we're so excited about it.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm very excited.
but yeah, let's get into the news, and then we can talk about what we're most excited for next year. So for the show next year, Skeleton Crew, we got a small clip. I mean, it was maybe 2 seconds, and it showed Jude Law, and it was just him putting up his hood. But we also learned more about the plot, including who Ray Stevenson and Ivan. I'm gonna really butcher this name, but Sakahano. And it sounds like, again, just a rumor, sounds like they will be playing a master and an apprentice from Order 66 that survived, and they fled into the unknown regions, and they have been kind of just hiding out there, and the Skeleton Crew end up running into them. I
Are we
know
going to see Order 66 again?
that would be wild to me. I mean, I already got a
Everything.
feeling that we
Every
might see it.
project, they
Yeah,
work it in. I'm sick of seeing it. It's
I
so
know.
bad.
I know.
I don't know. I think it wouldn't be bad for like a mention, but I don't think that we'll get like a full flashback for it. Because I mean, we had like that scene where it was in Kenobi, where they had like that whole flashback to Order 66, and I'm like, okay, and this is this person, okay, and I felt like, yeah, I guess it's needed, but as long as you kind of explain where it's from in the new series, it should be fine.
I don't know why it's just hanging.
You're jumping around.
I don't know, but yeah, no, yeah, as because of they've been focusing a lot on Order 66. I think we might see something with Bad Batch just because we're gonna have Gungi show up, which just to let everyone know, his name is pronounced Gungi, not Gungi. I see so many YouTubers and everyone else like say it that way. It bothers the crap out of me. So it's Gungi. Gungi is the name of the youngling Wookiee Jedi, but he's no longer a youngling in the Bad Batch because, you know, he at that point, you know, he's past it and everything. And he looks like he might be one of the only people that survived, which I'm not sure if you guys saw any of the trailer footage for the Bad Batch, but it looks like we're going back to Kashyyyk, and it looks like they might be doing something from a canceled arc that was supposed to be in the Clone Wars before Disney bought the rights to Star Wars, and in that canceled arc, it showed the Bad Batch riding the same creatures from the trailer, and he and they're riding these creatures that are from that canceled arc, and the canceled arc they fight these spiders and the trees of Kashyyyk and stuff like that. So I don't know if they're gonna bring that canceled arc from the Clone Wars during the Cartoon Network days and bring that over to this episode, but we'll have to see. And no, we have not been live long. Wow, we have a lot of people on today. Hello. But yeah, so I'm very, very excited to see what they do with Skeleton Crew. Again, it's supposed to be like that Goonies, Stranger Things type vibe, Lost in Space, and then they run into trouble. Apparently, Ahsoka's supposed to show up. Hondo might show up, but yeah. So there's a lot to unpack. It's the second most expensive show ever made in history. The first place holder is Rings of Power. But yeah.
Where does Game of Thrones rank on that? I would imagine that's pretty expensive.
They used to have some pretty expensive episodes. I don't know where they fall anymore, but I would assume it's still in the top 5. I think it's per basis. It was on episode wise instead of full series wise of cost expenses, but I'm not exactly for sure.
That would make more sense. Yeah, that's pretty wild that it's the most expensive. Makes you wonder if they're just paying people appropriately or if they're really going wild.
Something that I also suspect too is that it probably won't be filmed mainly on the volume. I think they'll do what they did with Andor, of where they were using actual sets, because I think they used maybe a couple of scenes for Andor with the volume, but most of it was actual like
on-set locations.
Yeah, on-set locations. And that's honestly what Star Wars was in the beginning. And I don't mind the volume. Like I think the volume is great, but having actual different locations was always like that classic Star Wars feeling to me. So I'm glad they did that for Andor. And I think we'll do that for Skeleton Crew as well. It's going to be dark, and it's going to be a very different show than what we've ever had of Star Wars, and a very different vibe. Because it's taking place during that timeline of The Mandalorian and the Ahsoka series and everything like that. I don't know how the Ahsoka series will tie into it, but I got a feeling it would. Yeah. But what is your main expectation for the Ahsoka series? Just out of curiosity, and not for the Ahsoka series, for the Skeleton Crew, because I know I want like that '80s vibe, but I really haven't heard from you guys.
I mean, yeah, that 80s vibe comment was very on point for what I want to see. I just want to see something new, some new stuff, not too many cameos, some things that we haven't seen, some big plot points that I want to see that are ranging to the future of. I mean, I think a lot of us have been saying that we think there's going to be like an end game kind of event like it is in Marvel. And I want to see this big plot point come in that we haven't seen just yet to tie a lot of these shows together. I think with this show, it's going to introduce whatever that is, even if it's in a baby form, which I would love. But yeah, I think that's what I want to see really from the show.
Okay. Right.
I've kind of stopped having expectations for shows.
Okay.
Just because so many people that I've heard from, like with different movies and stuff coming out, they're like, "Oh, this movie stunk," and I'm like, I just went in with no expectations, so I didn't like overhype it, and I was like, I enjoyed it. So I don't know, and I also don't. There isn't a whole lot out there about this one. Like, I feel like I don't hear a lot of talk about Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, we haven't had our big reveals yet. I think they're saving it for Celebration right now.
Yeah.
Of more information on the shows. But that's definitely one of the ones that I think that we haven't seen a lot on. I think that they're going to show off a lot for Celebration solely because, hey, this is the money dump show. So this has to be able to hit. And I think we'll get a trailer pretty soon.
Yes. They actually did. So a couple of days ago, they actually did show like a montage of shows coming out in 2023. So they showed like Ahsoka taking off her hood, and they showed stuff from Mandalorian, and then they showed off a couple of different Marvel projects as well.
Is that the Disney Plus like ad that they came out with recently that Tom Hiddleston narrates?
Yes. And there was also one which I didn't see, but apparently there was one. It did show like a 2-second clip of Jude Law and Skeleton Crew kind of taking off his hood. And that's really like the main actor that we know in that show. We have no idea who are playing the kids. We have no idea. I don't think it's going to be anyone that we know. I don't think it will be like any, mainstream actors, unless they just pull a bunch of the kids from Stranger Things. I think that would be hilarious, but which I doubt they will. But there is going to be a bunch of new actors coming into Star Wars, which coming into Star Wars at the age would be like a dream come true for me. Just especially coming in and being like, all right, so it's Star Wars, but you're going into a very unknown territory of the Star Wars universe. And it's going to be with different aliens, different creatures, some familiar faces, but not really. So I think that's just going to be fantastic to see. I'm really, really excited for the show.
On a complete side note, what is it about Star Wars and putting on and taking off hoods?
Because they're cool.
Because Obi-Wan did it that one time, and everyone has to do it now.
It's an awesome look, very dramatic. But
that's the point, right?
Just thinking about it just now, I'm like, wow, they really have a lot of shots of people putting on and taking off hoods.
I'm
not mad about it. I just made that observation just now. I think that's kind of weird, but here we are.
But yeah, and then we also have a new Star Wars film that, again, rumored to start filming in 2023. We don't know anything about it, like of the timeline or anything really. Potentially, it will take place after the sequels. Potentially.
So let's speculate wildly.
Right. And this movie is going to be made by Damon Lindelof. Again, I did not pronounce that well. But he has done... I'm not gonna lie, I really don't know that much of his work because I keep hearing these directors pop out of nowhere, and I'm like, I've never seen.
So you haven't seen the Watchmen TV show?
Oh no, I have not.
Okay, well, he did the Watchmen TV show. It was really good. Another thing is that he was producer showrunner on Lost, so he had very good ties with J.J. Abrams. So.
All right. Interesting. Sequel tie-ins. Wow.
I'm gonna quick give the director a goog, see if I can.
I mean, if they do take place after the sequels, do you want to see the other actors come back, or just maybe one? I wouldn't mind maybe having Poe Dameron maybe kind of lead like a crew going on through, because I don't know if it will explore the unknown regions. I really don't know what the plot could be.
Mm-hmm.
If we get sequel characters, I wouldn't want them thrown in there just to be in there. I'd either want them to be like integral to the plot, or they're just referenced and we don't see them. Like there's a offhand mention of like what Rey's up to, or like, oh, did you hear what Poe is doing or whatever. But I would like to see stuff from the sequels like incorporated into more stuff, kind of like what the Clone Wars did with the prequels. Just because I'd like to explore that part of the timeline a little more.
Okay. I think for me, I want to see something like let's say that we've already defeated the biggest bad guy that we ever could have for the Sith, right? We've done that. We finished that whole arc
3 times.
I think that you can't really follow it up with more Sith at this point. I want the bad guys or bad guy to be something that doesn't have to do necessarily with the Force. So we have like Yuzong Vong, which is like a giant player. Would love to see something like that. And I would also love to see something like, I think it's the Null
Okay.
from the High Republic.
Okay.
So I personally don't want to see necessarily Force users being the big bad in this.
I would like to see more of the magic from Star Wars because of the Night Sisters like used magic. Even Sheev also used like of that Sith magic from the World Between Worlds, because he like did that kind of like potion thing and then he tried to like pull Ezra back through the portal. I would love to see that. And actually I think we are going to see the origins of the Night Sisters in Skeleton Crew. That's a big rumor as well. And we'll see more magic stuff, which we got that in the Clone Wars, but I think live action would be very interesting. And I think we might also get some type of Sith magic potentially in the Acolyte as well, which that's also coming out next year too, is what they're saying. So again, there's a lot of Star Wars coming out next year, which is insane to me. But I'm with Rey. I just don't want them to throw in Rey and Poe and all those characters in there just to do it. If they do, I want it to make sense. I just don't want them to do it just to do it, because I think that's kind of lazy.
I don't want it to feel like how Mando showed up in Book of Boba Fett, how it kind of like almost took you on a completely different storyline. It circled back around, but I felt like it should have, this is getting into a bunch of other things, it should have stuck more with Boba Fett. And I don't want them to do a similar thing where like you bring in a hot character just to like have it in there to like gain attention kind of a thing. Like, oh my gosh, Rey's back, I want to go see it just for that.
Right.
You're gonna get a lot of people who, if it's just like a tiny cameo,
right,
probably get mad.
Right. So if now if they end up like bringing those characters back and they end up being the main characters, then I'm like, okay, fine. But if they do what you said, where it was, oh wow, this is the story of Boba Fett, he's, he is getting his own story, and then Mando takes over 2 episodes where Boba makes a cameo in one of them, then yes, I'm going to have a problem with that, because that was as great as the Book of Boba Fett was. Mando kind of stole the show, because
that's the word I was looking for. I don't want them to steal the show.
Here's the thing: is I feel like that's morely on them, because I feel like you can still do an episode like that and not have it be the best episode.
Yeah,
I feel like they dropped the ball for all of the things with Boba, to the point where it was so easy for like the Mando episodes to completely sweep like the narrative. Whereas I feel like if you 100% dedicated time and effort to both hands of the side, I wouldn't mind for those characters to show up, have an episode.
I agree.
Yeah, I think because what happened in Boba Fett was that the Mando's plot line was completely separate. They didn't really feed into each other. It's just like, oh, hey, here's what's going on in the meantime. Whereas if it was like I don't really know how you would fix it, but if the plots were more parallel to each other, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying.
No, I mean, as long as it makes sense. If they're just throwing it in there just to throw it in there, I want nothing to do with it. Like, that's my biggest thing. But yeah.
But at the same time, I would love to see a little Jedi school with Rey training people.
And Finn, because Finn
Well,
is
she'd be training Finn.
yeah.
I just have a great visual of Rey teaching a class of a bunch of little kids, and there's Finn.
Well, something else I find funny is that with the Lego holiday specials and everything that they did, I feel like he got more of a story arc in that than what we should have saw at the end of the trilogy, because if we like saw like Rey trying to train him and stuff like that, and I was like, man, like this sucks, because it's like I wanted that for John Boyega in the sequel trilogy, and we didn't get that, and that was a huge it was a huge disappointment for me. I will still go back and watch the sequels, yeah, but it's just crazy to think of what we could have gotten.
Mhm.
And if they go forward, they need to kind of answer some of those plot holes. For me, if they do go forward with the sequels and they, you know, add some characters in, I want them to explain everything with Exegol, because they just left thousands of star destroyers floating in orbit on that planet, and they just left it, be like, oh, okay, cool, acting like they couldn't just build a other dish to operate all those ships. And
See, they're leaving the door open for future plots.
I know, but honestly, I don't think they meant to do that, though. I mean, it didn't feel like that, because again, there's also the comic, which I've mentioned all the time, where Luke like takes off Vader's mask, and Vader had the opportunity to tell Luke, hey, go to Exegol, because in one of your favorite storylines where Sabine comes in, Darth Vader goes to Exegol, finds everything, finds the ships, finds the Emperor's clones, and then like the Emperor doesn't mind wipe him. So Vader knows all this, and like of the ships and everything are on Exegol, and that's happening during that timeline of where Darth Vader is with Sabine and stuff like that.
Sabine?
I mean, sorry, not Sabine, Sabe. Sorry.
Well, the
Sabe.
fact that there is a Sabine is what really confused me.
No. I'm sorry. I meant Sabe. Sorry. And it just baffles me. It baffles me because they made that after Rise of Skywalker, and they just dug themselves more into a hole, because Darth Vader knew that, and he also came back as a Force ghost to Luke, and he had all that time, but nothing. So that's probably my biggest thing, and I think we will see more of the unknown regions just because of the Rise of Skywalker, because the planet Exegol was just on the outskirts of it. So
I mean, maybe Vader just wasn't thinking about it in the moment.
I feel like that would stay with me forever.
I don't
seeing
know.
all those ships.
He could be very forgetful.
Okay.
Who's to say? I don't know. We don't know how Vader's
Again,
memory
if
works.
that's the case,
He kind of got fried on Mustafar.
yeah.
I imagine his memory's a little spotty.
But he also remembers Anakin, and he remembers, and he just remembers Order 66 clearly. He remembers Obi-Wan. Like, he did not clearly forget who he was. He was
Didn't
just
remember
trying
that he
to
killed
block
Padme.
that out, and he always remembered like Padme and everything. So, yeah. But yeah. Going back, going into other shows that are coming out next year, there is also Ahsoka. We got her first kind of glimpse. Well, so
You
I
just
saw
did
that.
the hood motion again
Yep.
with the hoods.
Yeah, because of she actually is taking off her hood, like in the 2-second trailer, and in that clip.
Put that Facebook comment up.
Yeah, I know.
They press Control-Alt-Delete buttons on his suit. Hey, I can't remember what I did last weekend. Who's to say that Vader also is just a little forgetful sometimes?
Pray.
I'm just throwing out possibilities, man.
Oh, okay. Well, if I don't know about that. I don't know if I don't know if Vader could really just have short-term memory loss. And then
Well, that's not necessarily short-term memory loss. It just didn't pop in his head at the moment. He had other things in his mind. Like he was dying or something.
All right.
I don't know.
But anyways, we saw that in Ahsoka, and again, this is a rumor. A lot of people are confirming it, but it's mainly a rumor right now. Is that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is going to be playing Hera Syndulla and Ahsoka. Now, from the trailer that I saw at Celebration, you didn't really see, her face. You only saw like the back of her head and everything. So I can't really tell. But honestly, I'm really hoping that it's not. And the reason why is because I want the original actress that voiced her in Rebels to come back and play her in live action. Because she was such a great actress and she really brought that character to life. And just like all the flashbacks that they could do, if they, do something with Hera and Kanan, I want Freddie Prinze Jr. to come back as Kanan, be like for live action. I really, really, really want that. I think that would be amazing. What do you guys think about that casting?
I mean, I like it. I like her in a few movies that I've seen personally. Like that would be another teenage heartthrob moment because she played Ramona Flowers. So
yep.
I mean, it'd be pretty funny to have her be in the show.
She will be in the show. It's just we don't know like 100% if she's going to be playing Hera or she's going to be playing someone completely different.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see her on the show. I Hera wise, sure. I mean, it's not something that I'm like. I don't really care who the actor is who plays her. I don't really have an opinion on that one. That's like Hera's not really one of my favorite characters. So seeing what other people can bring to it is interesting to me.
Yeah. Yep. Because of she, and ironically, she's also the actress is married to Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi. How ironic is that? Yeah. Crazy. And there's a lot of rumors and everything happening with the Ahsoka show. And some things might be true, some things not. I'm not going to really talk about it because it sounds like most of it's going to be true. But I'm telling you right now, the World Between Worlds stuff is going to be insane. All that stuff is going to be everything that we ever wanted. And it won't just be flashbacks. It will be kind of what if scenarios and stuff like that. So that's just going to be insane. What honestly is like your main expectation for the Ahsoka series?
Thrawn, something to do with Thrawn. That's like my main one. Being able to see Thrawn on screen, or at least a big nod to Thrawn, is what I'm like hoping and wanting.
Okay.
Where the story is really going to take them and what it's going to be truly about, I want to see put together into a streamlined story, because right now it feels extremely disconnected. Because I feel like a lot of us are just like, and this is what's going to happen, and we're going to have this in the show and this in the show, and I'm like, but I want to see how you're going to streamline that into what, like, I don't know how many episodes it's going to be, like 10 episodes, let's say. Like, how do you keep that as a strong narrative through the whole thing? Because I'm like, yeah, we got the World Between Worlds, and then I'm like, okay, but they're searching for this, and then we're going to have like Thrawn there, and then Ezra, and I'm like, oh goodness, please, I want to see this streamlined.
I just don't want the whole show to be to take place in World Between Worlds. If it ends up, popping up in the show for maybe 2 episodes or something like that, that's great. But I want to see Thrawn, Ezra, all those characters show up like so bad. But Ray, how about you?
Well, I haven't seen Rebels, so I don't really have an opinion.
Wow.
I can't really have an opinion because I don't really know the characters. So
Well,
Rip.
then this is the last of right. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Well, so okay, not knowing what's happening with Rebels and everything, how do you, because you know the character Ahsoka because of the Clone Wars.
yes.
So what do you think her journey will be like in the show? Not knowing what happened in Rebels. Just like have a prediction. I'm just curious.
Okay, so it's been a while since I've seen her episodes in Mandalorian. Who was she confronting that person about finding? Was that Thrawn? I don't really remember.
Yeah, so it was so originally she wants to find Thrawn because at the end Ezra basically takes Thrawn off into deep space. And with her being like Ezra being a Jedi as well, she's trying to find both of them.
Okay,
Don't
so
know where that's
she's asking that lady at the temple thing where Thrawn is. So
Well-
with that knowledge, I would think that the story would be following that plot point.
Just trying to find them. I see, like, saying that it's probably going to be just her on an Outlook search, maybe using the World Between Worlds sounds more streamlined to me. I just feel like with the World Between Worlds being the way that it is, it leads to just so much confusion that for me, I'm kind of like, if you're going to try and have it be a main plot point, you would have to stick it only to the World Between Worlds. Explain that as much as you possibly can, because any outsider to the series or new person to the series that just comes in and goes, what is all this random Star Wars stuff? Because I feel like that's the biggest ball drop kind of concept is the World Between Worlds for Star Wars fans.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree because it's just like going to Galaxy's Edge, right? Not everyone has seen Star Wars going into Galaxy's Edge, and they walk on through and they do Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run, and they're just like this is crazy. Like, what's this about? And then you go back and you know, and they go and watch the movies, and they fully understand, and they appreciate that experience more. Sometimes I really envy kids going into Galaxy's Edge because it's like having that experience as a kid and then growing up with all these new projects and everything. Like, I could not even imagine of being at that age after watching the prequels and everything, and then going in and then just going into a place like Batu. It would be insane. And that's the same thing with watching all these new shows. There is so much to look forward to and to kind of break down. And for example, there's Andor. I don't think you need to know the whole Skywalker story to watch Andor. I think that series, that show kind of stands on its own. Yes, there's the Empire and everything, but I think that show is great as a standalone. Now, Ahsoka is kind of right in the middle because, you know, Rebels and Clone Wars and everything like that, and it might get confusing. But I'm very, very excited to see how Ahsoka changes everything, because I think the World Between Worlds stuff and the can definitely change the way that we look at Star Wars.
Mhm.
And maybe the reason why the sequels are the way they are is because of something that happens in the World Between Worlds. Maybe Ahsoka, you know, does something like Back to the Future, and
That would be a gigantic mic drop. The thing I think that we will see through the World Between Worlds in the future is the reason of how Ahsoka was able to speak at the end battle between like Rey. With
that
like,
is what I want.
what
That is
most
what I
people
man.
want. That's definitely like a most people want scenario. And I don't know if they're gonna be like Ahsoka lended her power, because she's like, and I'm all the Jedi, but like Ahsoka 100% claims not to be a Jedi. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested in see where it ends up going.
Well,
Although-
I mean, Anakin spoke and he became Sith, not Jedi.
Well, there's two sides technically. So you have Anakin as Jedi, and then you have Darth Vader technically being his like split personality, which is a Sith version. So you have someone that's why like at the end you don't have him being in the ghost form version of himself, like bald and burned and everything.
Right.
It just has him as an older person. To see where it goes, I'm very interested, and I'm understanding that we're getting to a point where we might hit after this series some Ahsoka fatigue, and I'm very scared that we could hit that point where it's so focused on her, and then she pops up in everything, and everyone wants to see her, that her character gets undermined. That's what I'm scared of.
If it hasn't happened with Baby Grogu yet, then I don't know that it could. Because I feel like if anybody's going to be overused, it's going to be Grogu.
That's also a big question. Do you think we'll get the answer of who saved Grogu from Order 66 in the Jedi Temple?
Definitely could
Ahsoka
be a
show?
world between worlds. Could be a world between worlds situation of like seeing past, present, and future.
Okay.
Wouldn't doubt it. I don't know where that would fit in. It's a question that a lot of people have. I don't know if they currently have a plan for who it was. But it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
Good question.
Yeah.
So it's been so long since I've watched
It's all right.
Mandalorian. But is it stated in the show that he was there for Order 66?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know if that was just like someone figured out the timeline and that he would have, or if it was stated.
So in season 2, when after Bo-Katan tells Mando where to find Ahsoka, he goes there, and then he finds her on this planet in this forest, and they kind of talk it out, and then Ahsoka and Grogu have this long conversation, but it's quiet because they're talking through their minds, and Grogu pretty much explains that that he doesn't really remember what happened. He knows that someone came in and saved him from getting killed by the clones, and then after that everything went dark, and then he was in hiding for a very, very long time. And we don't know who the Jedi is. There was a rumor it was Mace Windu. I know James on the podcast hates that theory. He does not want that to happen at all. I mean, I want Sam Jackson to come back, but it needs to make sense. Again, I just don't want them to do it just to do it. Like I want it to, you know.
If it's Mace Windu, you got to do some serious acrobatics to make that plot line work.
Yeah. I could also see them explaining the thing with Grogu where all right, so in Star Wars Rebels, there's the scene where Ezra and Ahsoka are walking through, and you just see these circles, and it's just got different like they've got different points in time and stuff like that. And I could see Ahsoka walking through it, and she sees a portal that shows Grogu at the temple, and then she sees the guy or the girl or whoever come in and save him and then leave. I could see that happening as a quick like, oh, now we know who it is, or maybe we don't see the face and we just see the like a cloaked figure kind of
with the hood.
Yep, kind of take down the clones, scoop them up, and then leave. Like I could see something like that happening. You know what? I'm calling that theory right now.
It'd be interesting if it was Ahsoka because she was like explained it to Mando. So I'm kind of like, why would she not just be like, I saved him, lol.
Oh no. I am not saying like Ahsoka goes through the portal and saves him. I'm saying she's walking by and she sees the scene happen of the
Oh,
of the person
okay.
come in and save Grogu. She doesn't come in and save him. If
Do you
they
think
did
that they'll do
I would be
something
what
like
the heck?
where it's like Anakin, who is just like has like a change of heart? He's like, I am not gonna kill you for like half a second, and then okay, whatever, I'll let you pass.
Jeez. Oh,
He just
geez.
glitches.
Yeah. Oh man. That's and something I think Josh and I talked about a while ago was we hoped that by the end of the show that Ahsoka would maybe kind of bring her faith back to the Jedi, because it would make sense then why Ahsoka would be at the end of Rise of Skywalker, of where like you hear the voices of different Jedi from the past. Because of at this point she's like, I don't want to be a Jedi, I want nothing to do with it, they are corrupt. And she's kind of in the lines of Count Dooku. I mean, not as dark as Dooku, but she saw the Jedi Order, you know, for the corruption that it was, and it was because of Palpatine and everything. But her going through the world between worlds and kind of her journey, bringing her back to the Jedi, I think that could definitely happen, and that would make sense why we would hear her voice at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, just a theory.
No, that makes sense.
And then we also have Rian Johnson was recently in an interview. Rian Johnson is the man that made The Last Jedi, of course. And he said that he's open to making a Star Wars TV show. And
Instead of the movie?
I think, again, his trilogy is still active. It's still in motion. How do we feel about him doing a TV show?
Great, love
yes? Okay.
Love
As long as we're not dealing with any main characters, Luke, Leia, Han, Anakin,
I think
none
if
of them.
we got
I'm fine.
something in the Star Wars universe,
yes,
separate from the Skywalker trilogy,
then yes.
Would it be a trilogy? It's not a trilogy. I mean, there's 3 segments.
No.
No, I'm thinking of like the set of like prequels, originals, and sequels.
It's a saga.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why trilogy came out. Anyway, I think if it was separate from the Skywalker saga,
okay,
it could be pretty good. Because The Last Jedi is visually stunning. I think there's a lot of... I think what doesn't work for most people is that tone-wise, it's very different from the first one, and people want more of a flow, which this kind of disrupted that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think this independently, it's good. Set within the trilogy, it can get a little iffy. I think if he had his own series, it would be really good.
Things that I want to see, which I think would have really worked towards the future if we had stuck to the like trying to not just patch all the random holes that were left open instead of just making them very streamlined. I feel like I want to see a story of people who are force sensitive that are just force sensitive. They aren't any like Jedi or anything like that. What it means to be force sensitive in a galaxy like this. Like they don't have training. However, it's like, hey, what happens when there's no order to take you and train you through your force like sensitivity, but you're just out in this new world where that's looked down upon.
Like that kid at the end of The Last Jedi with the broom.
Exactly. Because and being that originally like Rey's parents were nobody, like they just sold her off, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, that's a big whoa moment, but I feel like an underlying theme for that movie was that anyone can be a Jedi.
Yes.
And it is still one of the biggest themes that I love that wasn't carried over into the next movie. I don't want anyone to be like, hey, look, you have to have magical grandparents or magical family members that have a long lineage to be able to be someone who's a big player in the galaxy, which I would love to see someone who isn't very in tune with the Force, but has no training like to do with Jedi or Sith. I would love to see that on screen.
Yeah. Man, I mean, because for me, which we all know how I feel, but like about The Last Jedi, is that dealing with characters that are established and then kind of changing their story is very, very hard for me to comprehend, because Luke was a beacon of hope. Like, Luke was a new hope. That was him. And going into The Last Jedi, just seeing him toss the lightsaber and kind of tarnish who he was, that wasn't my Luke Skywalker. And even Mark Hamill even said, like, that was not my Skywalker, but this is no longer like my Star Wars anymore. It's no longer my, like, trilogy. And I just, dealing with main characters like that and then putting your own kind of spoof on them and putting your own twist is a very hard thing to do. And I just don't think Rian Johnson did it right, in my opinion.
Well,
And
something that I think isn't really explored, I know it's explored in the comic side, is that just because Luke was able to defeat like the Emperor and Vader doesn't mean that he never had his trials of dealing with dark tendencies, which is something that I wanted to see, not in the exact same extreme, but I like how they tried to show that it's still in him because it's in his blood. And that's okay for me, just not in the same way that they did it.
yes,
I don't know how you would push that, but I would love to see more of him trying his hardest to the point where, like, he will never be able to be 100% pure. However, he can try his hardest to do that, where he has points of like anger, points of going over the top. He's not 100% of perfect of a person, and that's great. It's just, hey, we just had this giant years gap. We want to see this character again. We haven't seen him in live action forever, and the hype is so built up just to immediately be like, no, like that's not the same as let's have Luke be like, thanks for coming. However, I'm no longer doing this because personally, I don't want to train anyone. I have like a dark side in me, and I'm far too afraid of what's going to happen in the future. There's two differences, and I feel like there's one extreme, and if you're going to go to an extreme, like I really feel like they shouldn't have done it fully that way, where it's just like toss lightsaber. Oh my gosh, what is this? As opposed to being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm in exile because I feel a darkness in me that I can't control.
I recorded my reaction like at the theater, because half of these scenes I like of that part where I just remember just being like, what? And then there was the scene where like Leia died. I was like, wow, this is it. But like, that was super quick. I was like, I didn't think that they would kill her off like that. And then you see her hand move, and then you see her fly in space, and I was just like, okay. So it was very interesting. I'm sorry, Ray. Go ahead.
I think it's kind of interesting. So Luke has, I mean, his dad was like the epitome of the dark side. So he's got that in him, and you can kind of see him struggle with that in the original trilogy. And then he grows up and he has a Jedi school, and he messes up and a lot of people die. And that's going to be very traumatic because he's kind of, I think, had this chosen one sort of position like placed on him in a way. I mean, he is the chosen one, kind of in the like Harry Potter is the chosen one, kind of a trope, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So that happens, and you can't predict how somebody's going to react to trauma. And I think his reaction was just, let's put it all away. Like, I messed up. I'm kind of the last Jedi out there. And my actions caused this. So he's just going to stop. And he feels bad, so he goes and hides.
I feel like he also feels that he is, again, imagine the weight of being the beacon of hope at all times. Yeah, like,
and then you mess up.
Yeah, and
like you're on this
like,
pedestal and you trip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you are like on that big of a pedestal and you fail pretty big. I don't think it's that far-fetched to go run off to an island and hide.
No, I'm not saying that his actions in the movie were far-fetched, because honestly, I think you're right. Like a lot of people would kind of run away and go into exile. I mean, take a look at Yoda. He failed to kill the Emperor, and then he went to exile on Dagobah, and he was alone for all those years. And he kind of went, crazy.
Kind of.
Yeah. And for Luke, I understand why they did it. I just wish they did it in a different way, because Luke was that symbol of hope. Like,
I think that's what I was saying, whereas like, it's just that the way it was, like, this can be implemented in a well way. It just was handled harshly, because this is a character that people have been wanting to see for years. The character that people have been wanting to see for years. And instead of it just being like a whole explanation, a whole backstory, like a build up to it, and then it's an understanding, it was just like, boom, like a complete like cut of just being like, whoa, that is like all of my expectations out the door, complete 180. And the 180 whiplash was so hard that people were like, I can't get that thought out of my head for this entire movie.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows I went to film school. That subverting expectations was a pretty big thing that we learned about. And I feel like Rian Johnson's like, I see you're subverting expectations, and I will literally throw them off the side of a cliff.
Well, yeah. No, of just the whole lightsaber thing where he just threw it over his shoulder. That will always stick on my brain of me being in the theater, and our entire row was like, "What are you doing? Like, what?" And I can't be the only one, but were you guys hoping that the Porgs would turn on the lightsaber, like of the lightsabers right there, and then the Porgs were like looking directly into it? Like, to me, that was just karma. I was like, but
Luke did the same thing as soon as he saw a lightsaber.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Like, oh, what's this?
But yeah, so that was the big news for this week. And I'm very excited for next year. There's so much going on next year. You have Acolyte, very exciting stuff. And then you also have Mandalorian season 3. You've got Ahsoka. You have Jedi Survivor. Josh and I are very excited for that. You've got the Bad Batch season 2 coming out January 4th. That's next week, and we will be breaking down episodes every single week, all the way leading up to March at the end, and then we'll cross over.
Do we have for it? Do we know?
16.
16? Okay.
16, yeah. And for Mando season 3, that comes out on March 1st. And I think Ahsoka will come after Mandalorian gets done. And I think they'll, show stuff for Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, and Ahsoka at Star Celebration. I think all that's going to be happening at Celebration. But the Bad Batch will cross over with, not actually cross over with Mandalorian, but like the show, the shows will be running on the same days for like the whole month of March. And we're also getting Jedi Survivor that same month of March as well. Someone had one more comment about the Ryan Johnson stuff. The problem is Ryan Johnson took a character and changed his alignment chart box. He took a lawful good and wanted to play with a chaotic good character. Yes. And with Ryan Johnson, he's the guy that, that likes to put different twists and like different plot twists in movies and make it more of, a mystery.
Yeah,
and
Knives Out was great.
Right. Exactly. You can do that with those type of movies, but you can't do that with Star Wars because
see, imagine you could do a mystery film. You definitely can in Star Wars. You definitely can.
Just not with the main
mystery
characters.
Star Wars.
Not with the main characters, though. You cannot do that with Luke, Han, or characters that were established back in 1977. You can't do that unless George Lucas is behind the camera and continuing that story shortly after. But there's a fine blueprint of what Star Wars was. And Ryan Johnson just completely shifted all of that and did his own thing. And then he left it. And in Rise of Skywalker, that there were so many like kind of callbacks to The Last Jedi making fun of it because Luke even makes a comment saying like after Rey throws her lightsaber and he was like, you like have to treat a Jedi's weapon with more respect. And it was like that line wasn't necessary, but they threw it in there just to bash The Last Jedi to make the fans happy. Like that's exactly what that line was in there for. If you want to hear me rant, by the way, I'm just going to plug this really, really quick. If you want to hear me and Josh have a debate about The Last Jedi, we're going to be doing that tomorrow. And we are, and that's going on our Patreon. And we're really excited about it. Are you guys planning on coming to that or no? Because
I work a double tomorrow.
That will be like a whole hour.
You said my name.
Oh, sorry, James. Sorry, James.
I know. I was a little confused.
I'm so tired, bro. I'm so tired. I mean, Josh. I think Josh is on my side. So
with the whole movie, I'm in the middle of both. Okay. Honestly.
Okay. Because James is all for it. Like he always says it's one of the greatest films ever, and I'm just like, bro, no. I'm like, no. So we've been having this debate for years, and then I was just like, why don't we just have a debate? I said as a joke, and then David and them were like, how about we actually do it? So we're gonna have a debate tomorrow on Patreon. If you're not a member of Patreon, please join us. We have so much exclusive content. There's going to be so much, going on next year. A lot of content. But yeah. What's the number one show, Ray, you are excited for? Like show, project. It could be a book. It could be, because there's plenty of stuff going on.
Oh gosh. Don't put me on the spot like that. What are Star Wars shows? I've never heard of them.
Of our new ones, I think it's like Acolyte for now. That's probably one of my bigger ones. Just because I want to see where that goes with that. Also, High Republic side sounds very end of High Republic sounds very interesting to me.
Yes, it does. Of going into that transition of the corruption of the Republic, it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. But I think a really big one for me is just seeing new reveals, because I feel like we've been talking about this Star Wars stuff for a long time now of what we want from these shows, what we want to see. And I personally just want to see new projects, new things that they're going to announce, new things where they want to take this series. Would love to see the new Visions. Second season of Visions sounds very cool to me.
Season 2 of Visions is coming out as well. I keep forgetting about that, but yes, that's also coming out next year too, which is super crazy to think about.
Yeah, I think Skeleton Crew is high on my list just because there's so much
big budget
unknown.
Can't fail.
Exactly. Well,
yeah.
Have you seen The Room?
Yeah. No, that, oh man, it honestly is a great time to be a Star Wars fan because
Every time is a great time. To
well,
be a Star
well, I
Wars
mean,
fan.
well, yes, I know, but all these new shows coming out, and I
Yeah.
mean, I'm so excited to look forward to every single week Star Wars, going all the way into March, and then after Bad Batch gets done, we're going into Mando. After Mando, we have Ahsoka. After Ahsoka, it's gonna
It's a
be
very stacked year for Star Wars.
it's probably the most stacked year for Star Wars like ever. Like it's crazy. Oh man, it's gonna be awesome. And then you got Star Wars Celebration going on as well, and I guarantee there's going to be announcements from just that convention that they haven't even announced yet. That we're talking about, and I guarantee there will be other projects that are coming out that next year that they haven't even announced. So I'm super excited. There's also the Adventures of the Young Jedi. I think I'm probably I'm not really invested in that because that's mainly for kindergartners is what that show is about. It's mainly for that audience. But yeah, so much Star Wars content coming up. Yeah. Someone in our stream here has been saying Cal Kestis this entire time. What about Cal Kestis? Are you sure? Are you excited for Jedi Survivor?
Yes, I am.
No. Well, I know you are. Which Josh and I will be streaming that once the game comes out. Our goal is to beat the game in one sitting.
Child's play. That's what you got to do with EB Games. All right, you go into the store, you buy a game, you beat it in the first day, and then you return it the next day and get your full money back. I've been doing it for years. That's how we're going to do it this time.
Except you are not going to return your game.
I'm not going to return it. You're correct.
Because Josh got the collector's edition, which comes with the Cal Kestis lightsaber from the game, and it comes with the steelbook like of the game, right? And it's got art in it too.
Mm-hmm. Steelbook, art, a whole bunch of different stuff, actually.
Yep. And
Fancy.
I pre-ordered it as well. So I'm so excited for that. And again, that's happening the same time as Bad Batch Season 2 and Mando. So on one day you'll be able to play that game, and then you'll be able to like watch the shows like on that Wednesday. It's gonna be sick. For the collector's edition, I think it was $350, but I think it's sold out. I think there was only 4,000 being made or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And Josh was on that list. He made it. He survived.
Ooh, a pun.
Yeah. But yeah. That's really everything, guys. This is our last, normal podcast of the year. We are going to be doing stuff on Patreon. But please go follow us on TikTok. Josh and I have some great things coming on TikTok soon and Patreon. We're on Twitter @StuffPod, Instagram @Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Instagram. Nope. I already said Instagram. Sorry. We're on YouTube. Go and check us out there. Thank you for everyone on YouTube right now that is listening and watching us. Again, we're on Patreon @Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. Go to patreon.com. You can find us. We would not be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. And it's such a blast every time that we do this and we go on. And if you ever see us in public, come say hi. Like, we love talking to you guys, and I see a bunch of you guys at the parks, and it's so cool to have these different interactions. So, and go on Apple.
Someone just said that David is their favorite. I'm offended.
Honestly, you should not be, because I guarantee this is the person that goes on Apple Podcasts and says all these things about David, because it's all over our reviews, and it's the funniest thing. But please write us a review, and we want your feedback on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on all streaming platforms. Again, we love you guys. We're on Facebook, Star Stuff group, and Star Wars Stuff podcast page. Is there any last words of wisdom that you guys want to say before the year's done? Nothing? No?
I like that one Facebook comment that says "Rise of Sabe."
Rise of Cyber. There you go. Well, with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for a great year. We can't wait till next year. May the force be with you.
Always.
Always.
Always.